Good afternoon, everybody. It's 17th of August, 2025. It's Sunday, and it's what about 5:30? 5:30 in the afternoon, or getting close, somewhere around that area. But yeah, I mean, the news just gets more and more ridiculous. So you have to look at what is the most startling news of today, the 17th. Well, I don't know. There's so many little aspects about Zelensky going to Washington for tomorrow, I guess, a meeting tomorrow, Monday. That it's just kind of like, what the heck is going on here? If you guys ever watch a lot of these politicians, you know, these heads of state, and then they're supposed to have some sort of a meeting with some other head of state or something like that. A lot of times they cancel out. They said, scheduling difficulties. They even have that with ministers of defense and all that. Oh, I can't make it. I have a previous engagement or something like that. And you saw how fast this meeting between Donald Trump and Putin occurred. It just over the course of like 1 week. And now, also, almost immediately, Zelensky is going to Washington, and it seems like normally when any kind of a meeting comes up that has any concern, any big concern of Ukraine, Zelensky's always available. He's always immediately available. And since Zelensky is going to Washington, you know, it's unusual that you find out that all these other heads of state from Europe, they're all going as well. At the very last minute, all of a sudden, they don't have anything that's important, maybe that they can break. So they're going to Washington as well. And that, oh boy, that tells a lot. Not just the scheduling part, but the fact that all these people are going. And you have like all of the highest members, all but except for Kaya Kallas, but all the other highest members of the Hate Russia Club are all going there. And Maloney, I kind of always was thinking, well, she's kind of a hesitant member of the Hate Russia Club, but yeah, but she's going too. I don't know, maybe she wants full membership status, I don't know. But it's absolutely amazing. So, who is going? You have Mommy, Ursula van der Pfizer. I mean, Pfizer, I did say Pfizer, because of the Pfizer scandal of over 1 billion vaccines and billions of euros. No, I didn't say that. Van der Leyen is going, and you got Commandant Merz, Commandant Hogan, but you know, like Hogan's Heroes. He looks like Colonel Klink, doesn't he? But anyway, so you got Commandant Merz going. Macron is going, and stormtroopers. Starmer is going. Starmer is going there as well, and Maloney is going. Water Maloney, I don't know. Maloney's going, and Stubby Stubbs, the tall guy from Finland. You know, one of the newest members of NATO, and yeah, you know, it's incredible. The ungrateful Finland. You know, Finland, they got their statehood. Russia gave them statehood. So they owe a lot for Russia, technically speaking. And all they had to do was just declare neutrality. And they can do anything they want with Europe, anything they want with Russia, nothing if they want with Russia. And of course, that wasn't good enough. So it makes you really wonder who got them by the short hairs, the ginger curlies, and made them part of the NATO, for one thing, and Sweden. And oh boy, I mean, go into the history of all of this stuff and the islands. Now they're militarizing everything, trying to militarize all the Baltic. I've talked about that before. But anyway, this is really crazy world of the Hate Russia Club. However, if Donald Trump bows the United States out of the Hate Russia Club, you know, as it was in fully, both feet in and swimming around with Joe Biden, that's going to be putting quite a damper on things. And it seems like Trump has a lot of honesty when he says he wants to make deals with Russia rather than war. But of course, he wants to dominate Russia. Donald Trump, I mean, he's made it known he wants to dominate everyone. He wants to dominate the entire world. So it's, I was entertaining this thought in my mind that Putin should make some kind of proposal to Donald Trump that he joins the multipolar world, but I don't think that's going to fly, because Donald Trump wants all the world, the master, one ring to bind them all, as I always say. Anyhow, but it's the worst part about this is, as you guys all seem to realize, I mean, there's just all these aspects. You can look at it from, a few different ways. It all comes back the same way. But Zelensky, he's taking all of these leaders with him. It's sort of like, if you are nervous when you're going to a job interview, I don't know, do you take your mother with you? Do you take your dad with you, and your brothers and your sister? You don't. You got to go in there. You got to be a man. And Zelensky, I don't know. He's kind of showing us he hasn't really grown up yet. He's still a boy, and you have to also consider the fact, when you used to see him with Joe Biden and with Boris Johnson and everybody, he looks like a boy. He looks like a boy with him. Gee, Dad, can I have the car keys tonight to take Betty Lou to the movies? Or something like that. I don't know. Zelensky, but it makes him look really pathetic. If it was Zelensky, you would think that he would have some sort of a mechanism in his head to say, I gotta look like I'm a man. I can't be a little boy like this and take mommy and daddy with me, and the mailman as well. Stubbs the mailman. I mean, boy, I tell you what, I would be totally embarrassed. I would say, this is not right. I can do this myself. I don't need anybody to hold my hand. And a lot of critics are saying it's because Zelensky got that big dressing down by Trump the last time. But a little bit of it was kind of, if you think about it, unfair. You had who's the vice president, Vance. You had Vance there, Marco Rubio. I think he, for the most part, kept his mouth shut, Marco Rubio. Pretty much everybody else. It was like Vance and Trump. And Trump doesn't even need anybody besides himself to dress down Zelensky. And but anyway, do you think Trump is going to be scared? Do you think he's going to be scared from all of these bullies? I don't think so. So, what else? So I mentioned all the people that are going. And a little bit ago, there was some birds here. This is the bench I talked to you guys about. Look and see, it's got a backrest on all this. It's the only one around here. The other ones are pieces of crap. When they break, they take them away. They don't even put a new bench. And I would hope that they'd at least put some kind of a bench like this here. It's probably the oldest one. These other ones are crap. You can't rest your back or nothing like that. You have old folks, coming. Do you think they're going to sit on some flat piece of thing? I don't think so. They'd rather rest their backs. Especially, you got a truck factory here, and there's a tractor factory somewhere over there. A lot of these people work physically, and when you got somebody retired, they're 70 years old, I would think they might want to rest their backs instead of sitting on like just a flat little thing with some slats of wood in it. That's not good. Anyway, that's just my opinion. So what else we got here going on? But I tell you what, I don't think that's going to work against Trump. I'll tell you what, Trump only needs Trump. You got to realize this guy, he had a lot of companies underneath him. Trump had wine, had casinos, he had hotels, building projects all over the place. And when he was considering, for example, somebody to be the director of a casino, I don't think that person brought their mother and daddy with them and their mailman too. I think Donald Trump would look at that as being quite pathetic. And I would only tell Zelensky, I mean, you're a grown man. You're not a little boy. You don't need mom and dad there. You can't do that anyway. One day you gotta put your big boy pants on, Zelensky. Okay. So the subliminal question. So what is Trump supposed to think? He's going to think that Zelensky's weak. You know, that he's not a man. He might even say that. It would be amazing if he said exactly what I just said, you know, that he's got to grow up or something like that. I don't think Trump is going to take very kindly to that, because I tell you what Trump is going to think when he hears even that these people are going, he says, oh, they want to gang up on me. They want to gang up on me. They want to force their will, you know. And what is their will? Their will, they want Donald Trump to keep sending lots of money, the American people's money. Donald Trump should say, it's not my friggin' money, it's the American people's money. They don't want a friggin' war with Ukraine. It has nothing to do with us, you know. So why don't you guys pay for it? If it's so, oh, if Putin is going to invade, like you guys all think, oh, he wants to invade and take these bankrupt countries, you know, with drug addicts on the streets and transvestites running around all over the place, you know, then yeah, then they can go ahead and send the transvestites over there. Maybe they can give the Russian soldiers AIDS or something like that. I don't know. What's the best bet they could do? So he's going to think Zelensky's weak in any case, you know. Yes. But you got to realize that Zelensky's also going to bring his entourage of Ukrainians. And, you know, Vance is going to be there, I'm pretty sure anyway, but I don't think Trump necessarily needs Vance. But, you know, how many people are going to fit in that room? You're going to have the press there and everything else. It's really going to be something. I don't know. We want to see Trump in action. So let's see if he really is still Donald Trump, the tough guy. You're fired! You know, stuff like that. You don't get the job. You know, we'll see. Especially with all those monkeys around him. I cannot believe it. To me, it's absolutely pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic to bring all of those heads of state there, you know, an impromptu thing like that. Putin already gave his red lines. Donald Trump, if he really does want peace, and it hasn't happened, it didn't happen in 24 hours like he wanted. This is taking a lot longer. It's over 6 months now. And he finally has some sort of a recipe on how a peace can occur. And yeah, sure. You know, everybody, oh, Putin won. Putin didn't win anything. That was just a preliminary meeting in Alaska. I mean, what a bunch of friggin' jokers. They're all putting pressure on Trump to not give up this war and to you know, make him feel like, oh, everybody's after me. I got to give in. I got to do this. I can't, you know, Putin can't get nothing. We got to screw over Putin. We got to keep screwing him over. But I think maybe by now Trump should realize that if you want to screw over Putin again, you know, you want to keep this going. I guess I got to probably sit a different way. The light is not so good for y'all. It's behind me. But Vladimir Putin is not going to give up. He gave his red lines. I'll tell you what. If you saw what happened the last time, remember? Putin had Crimea because Crimea voted to be part of Russia. First they voted they didn't want to be a part of Ukraine, and they never wanted to be a part of Ukraine, just like the Donbass. They've never wanted to be a part of Ukraine in their entire history. None of them ever did. And so, but anyway, the Crimea, he got the Crimea because that was the prize jewel. The United States wanted that big time. That was the whole thing. Most of this was about the Crimea, and I've already said that before. You have to look at some of my older videos. And I remember that when I was in the military, the whole thing, the United States, they wanted to kick Russia out of the Crimea. And of course, as they started taking over all these countries in NATO, and this stuff was all occurring, they said, well, why don't we just take Crimea too? And that, of course, was the whole goal of that. The British were getting established in, what's that other, the port? I keep wanting to say Novorossiya, but anyway, it's also it's on the Black Sea there. It's actually the port city of Krasnodar. And they were going to be more established there for tourism. They were building hotels. You know, the plans were all made. Everything was really done. I doubt that they kept on going on that one. Because I was interested, actually, I was looking into that. That was just, when was that? Right before COVID, so I don't know. Anyways, things have a way of stopping, and with all of this special military operation. Anyway, everything was set to go ahead. And, but of course, the UK, they hate Russia. They hate the Russians, and of course Russia keeps trying to extend an olive branch to them, and they just keep chopping it off, and they keep cheating Russia and doing that, the usual stuff that the UK does against Russians, and a lot of countries, as a matter of fact. That's, I guess, colonial attitudes. But anyway, Putin gave his red lines, and I don't. So Trump has already formulated exactly what needs to be done to get peace, and if he's going to let these jokers come and mess him up from the European Union and Zelensky, he can just go ahead and start all over again. He's going to have to start all over again. So he probably tentatively already agreed, and I think he even told Zelensky, this is what's going to happen. Russia has already got the entirety of Lugansk. So Russia has Lugansk. The Donbass consists of Lugansk and Donetsk, and they still need a part, or they still don't have all of the Donetsk, but they have most all of it. And what Vladimir Putin told Trump is, what we will settle with is, you give us the rest. I mean, Ukraine has to withdraw from the rest of Donetsk, which I don't know how much is left of it, 10% or something like that. It's not a huge amount. Maybe it's 20, 25, I don't know. But Russia keeps moving more and more and more. They're taking more and more of it, one village and one town after another, and taking some major towns. Ukraine is having tremendous losses, around 1,200 every day, and Russia is, I guess, in a lot of time in single digits and double digits is all. Far, far, far less than Ukraine. But there is, I think it was Zaporozhye, I believe that was Zaporozhye. Russia has a good portion of it, but not all of it. I think maybe they have a little over 50%. And Kherson is, I don't know. But that's a little bit different anyway. There's people there that are align themselves with Ukraine, some of them in those places. It's not like the Donbass, which is Lugansk and Donetsk, or Crimea, which they've never considered themselves to be Ukrainian. They were more anti-Ukrainian than anybody in Russia was, so that they never wanted to be a part of Ukraine. And Zelensky should jump at the chance. And of course, their whole idea of the Ukrainians was to ethnically cleanse those lands. And either those that wanted to stay, they would either be second-class citizens, basically, and be, sneered at and spit on, basically, because they're Russian ethnicity, or, they start speaking Ukrainian, and they wanted to ban, of course, the language, the Ukrainians, and then they were bombing and killing all those people, and they wanted to drive a lot of them out. That's the whole. It's Nazism. That's just plain and simple. It's very similar to what is going on in Israel. Like, that's why I equate the two of them to be very similar. Netanyahu is another version of Zelensky, and we got to kill the inferiors, the subhumans. That's what it's all about. It's kind of like Adolf Hitler. He didn't, Adolf Hitler, I think he looked at, at least he said, and I think he maybe was only saying this stuff because he was saying that, a lot of politicians, they say things, but they act a little bit differently. And a lot of myths and lies about stuff about what's going on in Germany back in those days as well. But, he was saying like that the Germans were the master race or something. That's for the consumption of the crowd. It's probably like Barack Obama. That's a fascist statement, let's just say. And Obama's statement, the exceptional people, that the Americans are the exceptional people. Or even in Israel, when they say God's chosen, we are God's chosen people. These are all fascist. That's, what they call fascist. Fascism is actually an economic system, but it's like the social fascism, we are more superior than other people and all that kind of crap. But, they say something like, Adolf Hitler, he refused to shake hands with Jesse Owens after he ran the 100, back then I think it was it 100 meters or 100 yards? They had the 100-yard dash, even back in my days in school, around 100 meters. But 100 meters a little bit further. But no, that is obviously not true. And I believe Adolf Hitler did shake the hand of Jesse Owens, the American black athlete. But they buried the film footage. I guess it does exist, and they will not show it. I'll tell you what, if you want transparency, why doesn't somebody say, well, let's see that footage? You know, it's because most people don't know that it exists, and they hid that footage that Adolf Hitler, after Jesse Owens won the 100-meter run, he shook hands with Jesse Owens. And everybody's trying to tell you, oh, he didn't because he's a racist. And, you know, I didn't study Adolf Hitler, you know, but it probably would be very interesting. But, you know, the deal is you got such biased information, you'll never find the truth. You know, everybody, oh, he's this, he's that. It's like the Russians meddled in the election. Donald Trump got peed on. That was another one. I think I have that. I didn't look at it for this video though, but I saw that in this Daniel Steele. He's coming up with some more stuff. He's the guy that came up with the pee-pee gate, you know, with the fake stuff. And he even admitted that he lied, maybe because it was getting so much attention, you know, that Donald Trump went to Moscow and had hookers peeing on him and stuff like that, you know, which was called the Steele dossier, you know, and it was all cooked up and it was a lie. He admitted that he lied, but now he's coming up with something else. I can't remember. It's maybe it's not a lie, but maybe just it's a real warped opinion, and he should know better. He's MI6 instead of believing in bullcrap, you know. It's like, it's really strange. So how come it is that a lot of us, you know, and I keep mentioning names, you know, a lot of like Jimmy Dore and Larry Johnson and Scott Ritter and Douglas McGregor, you know, and so many of us that we all know more than the intelligence agency does, apparently. I mean, it's just like, what the heck is going on? And we always turn out to be right, just like all that COVID stuff. You know, I don't know exactly what I can say and what I can't say on YouTube, which part of the myth, the lie, the exaggerations and stuff that they want to keep preserving. But as time goes by, it turns out that we were all right, all of us that are, you know, in this side. And Jimmy Dore, I guess he got the shot and he suffered from it, and so he's one that knows that those shots can be very, very bad for people. And I tell you, that's why I had to run, because I think in my what do you call it, genetics, that I would have probably not lasted more than a few weeks if I would have got that shot, you know, and I would have to have the word stupid printed across my forehead. So anyhow, but let's get back to Ukraine. Stop! Gosh damn you guys trying to always, what do you call it, sidetrack me. So anyway, what was I saying? Yes, Putin says that Ukraine should withdraw their troops from the remaining part of Donetsk, and that he will freeze the line wherever it is at in Kherson and Zaporozhye, and that will be the border. And then they can have a ceasefire, and as far as he's concerned, the war can end. The whole thing can end. So, hit the caboodle. You have kid in caboodle. Yes, as you see, she's wearing a coat. You see the lady there? The child has had a coat on, even a hat on. Well, anyway, sun hat. And I've got a kind of a jacket. Yeah, it's really weird. It's because it's kind of cool when it's not sunny. It's not cold, but it's just real cool. You don't, anyway, but that's besides the point. Let's keep getting back here. Anyway, he said it will be a ceasefire, and of course it could lead to the end of the war. And apparently Donald Trump relayed that to Zelensky, and Zelensky refused. And it's exactly like what was happening before when Russia had the Crimea, and they did not have the Donetsk at all. And it was like in the Minsk agreements that what was supposed to happen is, you know, and of course they'd already voted to be part of Russia in the Crimea, and it was a done deal. And so the Donetsk, or let me say the Donbass, was supposed to be an autonomous region of Ukraine, and but would still be part of Ukraine. And but Zelensky, he didn't like that. He wanted all of Crimea too. So anyway, then the war was going. It kept on going and going, and now Russia's not only got most all of the Donbass, what is it, I don't know, 90% of it, that they have a huge portion of Kherson and Zaporozhye now. And now they have another chance to do this, and Zelensky's refusing again. You know, it's his European backers. It's Starmer before it was Boris Johnson, and it's like, no, keep on fighting. And it's like, well, you know, what do you think that Starmer and Macron and Merz and all these people are thinking? Well, it's not our country, you know. If Zelensky doesn't prevail, so big, so what, you know? And of course, they all know, and Starmer has said this. They've all said it, that unless the United States joins in on Ukraine's side, there is no chance that they can ever regain any of that territory. And there's probably not that much of a chance anyway, even if the United States joins in, because Russia's not going to give up. That's how Russia is. And Donald Trump, for a large part, he understands that. I think he's had some advisors telling him that. So that's how that's going to go. And Donald Trump knows that. And how many times has he said it? War is Russia's business. They make war. That's what Russia is all about. They've defended themselves for hundreds of years. They've been at war for so much of their history that a major part of all of Russian history, probably the biggest portion of it, is war. War, even much more so than the United States. You know, even though the United States has been bombing and destroying countries, lots of countries, since the end of World War II, almost non-stop. They've invaded so many countries and bombed so many countries. And I don't know, it's normally they bomb from a distance. They just send some bombs, they jump some airplanes, drop some bombs. But Russia gets right down and dirty, and they roll up their sleeves, and Russians can fight. They have it up here. They got a fighting mentality. Belarusians as well, I think. So it's something about the society over here. At least Donald Trump kind of understands that. You'll hear like Colonel McGregor will talk about that, and Scott Ritter also talks about that, and that's just how it is. If you study history, I don't even know if you have to come over here. You have to just understand that that is how it is. At least Donald Trump, I think for the most part, he understands that. So you don't go to war against Russia. You just don't do that. You know, so what are you going to do? Are you going to occupy the biggest country on earth? Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's not even easy against Ukraine. You know, Russia is not having an easy time, but they look at you, and especially the way Russia is doing it, they don't want to bomb civilians. Of course, the Ukrainians want to keep killing Russians. They want to, you know, it's just like, what did they say? There was something leaked out of Israel just the other day. Was it foreign minister or something like that? That they said that they have to also kill children. They have to kill the Palestinian children. And you know, a lot of the Nazis from Ukraine, they also feel exactly the same way. They don't care. Kaya Kallas said we need to. She is the foreign secretary of the EU, and she says we need to kill more Russian children. Those were words. She says that on video. You can read her lips as she says it, and that's not a mistake. It's not a deep fake. She wants to kill Russian children, and that's what she said. Kaya Kallas. A lot of people are like that. There's a lot of people in Lithuania, and these people. It's very sad. It's very sad when you get this stuff going on. This Banderitism, this Nazism, this, you know, Zio-Nazis like in Israel. Very, very sad. Too bad we can't get a world court to step in against people doing this to their own people. Okay. So since Zelensky refused now, and he's bringing the entire entourage to gang up on Trump to make Trump say, "Oh, okay, you can have all of the Donbass and all of the everything. I'll even throw in Crimea. You know, if you act now, for no extra charge, you get Crimea too, and some Ginsu knives, okay? And then these covers that you can put over your chairs and things, you know, so that your animal can go on there and, you know, and all that. And you can wash them in the washing machine." Anyway, so what happens now? Trump's not going to cave in, I don't think. So, if you ever saw that picture, I remember when Trump went to Europe, I think in his first term, and Trump is sitting there with his hands crossed, and all of these European leaders are standing around him, and he's just sitting there looking really defiant, and he just basically probably told them all to shove it. You know, they're pretty well dependent on the United States. And I'll tell you what, I think Scott Ritter will say this too, because I've heard him say something along these lines, and probably Douglas McGregor as well. These people know far more than I do about this sort of things. You know, they were officers in the military, and I was just some enlisted joker, and I know certain things. But anyhow, the United States has a lot to do with the logistics. They have obviously very much to do with the intelligence gathering, giving intelligence to Ukraine. And I'm not just talking about Starlink, I'm talking about other means. And what about all the ammo? Well, where are they going to get this ammo that they're going to fire off in the HIMARS and things like that? So Donald Trump has some cards. And what are these jokers? I don't even know why. Why in the heck did these people come anyway? I'll tell you what, if I was Donald Trump, I'd say, get out of here. What is it? You're Germany, you're France. What are you, 1,000 miles away from Ukraine? I mean, come on, get out of here. What about Slovakia? Slovakia borders them. What about Hungary? Hungary borders them. And they don't want all this crap. They're not scared of being invaded by Russia, and they're on the borders, but you have all these other people, the Polish, Russia's going to come and get us. They know that that's not true. This is all just something cooked up to scare their people because they want a defeat of Russia. And they don't care if they're going to sacrifice their people. They don't care if they bankrupt their countries. They don't give a crap. They want their own plushy lives, the lives of their families, and that is all that matters. They get these bank accounts. Their backers, their political backers, their donors, those are the ones that make the weapons and the banks and everything. They profit from war, and so that's why they're there. They're there for the bidding of their donors, just like Lindsey Graham and so many in the United States. It's also pathetic. I don't know about all of Donald Trump's donors, but maybe Donald Trump has enough money on his own that he says, I don't really give a crap, man. I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, Israel put him into power, so he's not going to back out on Israel. He's going to continue flooding bombs to Israel, so Israel can keep killing Palestinians, but it's a little bit different over there in Europe, I think. So he wants to probably do the right thing somewhere. He's trying to get his Nobel Peace Prize. I'll tell you what, I would have come up with a scenario if I were Putin, and I would have said, well, I would even, recommend you for a Nobel Peace Prize if A, B, C, and D happens. So let's keep going. So what happens? Trump's not going to cave. Trump will say to Zelensky, and only Zelensky, because Europe they don't have crap to say about this. He will say to Zelensky, you got to take the deal. You better take the deal, or else, lose your intelligence sharing, lose the logistical support, lose a lot of the ammo. I think a lot of the money has already stopped flowing, a lot of the weapons, but they're still getting ammo as far as I know. And what about the repair of Abrams and the Germans do the Marauders and all that, but ATACMS or whatever they have, the HIMARS systems, we're not going to repair them anymore, unless you take this deal. And of course, then they don't need that equipment because they're going to have to withdraw it. But anyway, I don't know. Trump says he doesn't like seeing all the killing, which is, hundreds of thousands, if not way over 1 million. That's what some people say. But I don't even know if Trump has the ability to do this because remember when he wanted to take his troops out of Syria and it didn't happen? And because the CIA, there's the deep state CIA, you got Soros, you got too many players and stuff in there, and a lot of them hold together probably more powerful cards than Donald Trump himself but I don't know. I think he's going to probably find a way to dispossess Ukraine of all of the benefits they're getting from the United States unless they do that. Donald Trump, he wants his Nobel Peace Prize. And I tell you what, I think we'll see how big his ego is. Is his ego bigger than all of those people that are going to be in the room combined? Starmer with his bum boys and, Macron driving that train high on with Mertz, egghead Mertz, Colonel Klink. Anyway. So, other news, like I was saying, Israel's still doing a lot of their bombing. They bombed the biggest power plant in Yemen. I'm sure Yemen's not going to like that too much, and I'm sure, they're going to have an answer for that. And they're continuing to bomb Gaza. Oh, some very horrific footage. Somebody was filming one, and they blew up an entire building, and a lot of it was coming right out the camera. I don't even know how they did that without the camera getting I think the camera must have been fastened somewhere because it's like I don't think the camera even moved. But you see all nothing but debris and coming into the camera. I don't know how they did that. And there's one bombing. They killed 60 people in one bombing, Israel in Gaza. But they bombed, like I said, Yemen quite a bit. You know, they're very proud of themselves. And, you know, they're still bombing, obviously, Lebanon, parts of Lebanon. But of course, there's still a lot of bombing, and they're leveling Gaza. Who knows if anybody's getting any water and things. I guess the biggest thing was water, and a lot of people didn't mention that. They were bringing food, but not water, and they need water more than anything. So, and the West is continuing trying to overthrow Serbia and Georgia. And remember I told you about Gunther Fehlinger, that I mention him quite often in a lot of my videos. He's that economist from Austria, and he was in this, you know, in a think tank of NATO, and it was like his office's responsibility to draw up all of the new borders inside of Russia when they split it up into 40 different countries. And of course they were salivating at that. But anyway, Gunther Fehlinger, you know, it's not coming about apparently with Russia. And of course he hates Belarus. He said he hates Belarus even more than he hates Russia. And his second on the list is Serbia. So right now, you know, it didn't work in Belarus, and it looks like, you know, Lukashenko kicked him in the ass, kicked all of NATO and the deep state and all these people in the ass. You gotta love Lukashenko. I tell you what, Lukashenko is amazing. You know, he's never probably going to get any kind of a prize, but he's one of the most amazing politicians on earth. There's no doubt about that. I could sit here and sing praises of him. I should make a video about that. But anyway, and I didn't even make my coffee video. I just put a bunch of notes on it. And I got to probably do something, a collage, and put a bunch of, I got to probably make the movie first, and then, I don't know, do a talk about it afterwards while I'm showing the, I don't know, it's going to be difficult. So anyway, yeah, the West is also still trying to overthrow Georgia. They got protests and things going on there. They keep funding a little bit more money, and most of this is coming from the EU, as if the EU has so much money. You know, and I tell you what, I'd be pissed off if I was some of these people like from Germany and all that. But I guess they just keep printing more money, printing and printing and printing. Wow, and then they want to print to start a war against Russia. I tell you what, a bunch of idiots. I don't know, it's very sad. So anyway, I am much happier that I'm in Belarus than I am in Germany. When I was in Germany, they were already going after me. They go after a lot of people trying to suck the money. They try to find some way to say that, oh, you owe us a whole bunch of money. And it's not just the government. There's a lot of these other agencies, because they get money sucked out of them, probably from the government. You know, it's like the water people. They were trying to, and I told them basically, I'm not going to pay it. You know, I had a house, I signed it over. The water meter said 0. It said 0 on the meter, 0, 0, 0. And then they come to me like a year and a half later with this big water bill, and I said, when I sold the house, it was 0. They try a lot of stuff anyway. And I think we took pictures, but I don't, you know, it's like, I've said, and I just told them, I said, I'm not going to pay it. So I don't know. Are they going to arrest me when I go to Germany? So what else here? Yeah, they tried to kill Lukashenko a couple of years ago, as y'all know. That was back in 2022. I was living here by that time, actually. And but they caught these people beforehand. I guess the Russian FSB caught these people, you know, and they were, like I had already said a couple of videos, that they were trying to assassinate him on May 9th of 2022. You know, former military people of Belarus, they were doing the planning, and Russia was recording them, at least by audio at least. And anyway, the last violence we had here was in 2020, and the West hasn't really messed with us, even though they really do try. Like Victoria Nuland said, even I think it was just a few years ago, she said that's when she was, you know, 6 months or so before she left office, we're going to still try to overthrow the government of Belarus. So, and she said it. She said exactly, basically that. We'll continue with seeking regime change in Belarus, which means we're going to still try to overthrow the government of Belarus. I mean, there's obviously that hasn't, it is exactly the same meaning. So let's see. Part of this visit, like I said, in 2020, they had this attempted overthrow. I guess it, and a lot of the Belarusians, they still remember all of this stuff. I guess it was really traumatic about that. And Lukashenko, actually, he did exactly the right thing. I don't know, maybe there was some people that were a little bit over or heavy-handed, some police. Maybe, I'm not even sure about that, because you have to kind of overreact, apparently. And if you don't, your government's going to get overthrown, and things would be hell here. They would be hell here if he did not do that. But anyway, there's 1,300 political prisoners, I guess. People that were doing the riots. I don't know, maybe trying to kill. Some people did kill policemen and things like that. And there's a lot of bad injuries in Serbia. I already mentioned that yesterday. A lot of broken bones. The policemen are really, some, I don't know if any are so bad that they're gonna die, but there's some are in very bad condition from the protesters, thanks to the West, because it didn't work so well in Georgia. I guess that means they're gonna go full on. That's why it's starting to turn out that these color revolutions are gonna be like, apparently they're gonna be more battles, and they're gonna, you can't give these people guns and bombs and stuff like that, because for one thing, it doesn't look really that good. And then the government probably has bigger bombs and more guns, so that's not going to go out too well. But these people are going with iron bars and sticks, maybe 2x2s, trying to beat the policemen like that, making like baseball bat sort of things. So, but anyway, part of this deal that is supposed to happen when Donald Trump comes here, and I think they were talking even about September or maybe even in August. There was supposed to be some meeting happening in August, and I'm not sure if that was the follow-up meeting between supposedly that I think Trump wanted it to happen as soon as possible. I think he was saying like something like 27th of August between Zelensky and Putin, and if they want me, I'll be there too, and whatever. I don't know. I believe that was one of the tentative plans or the desires or wishes, whatever. But I think if that is supposed to be kicking off, then Trump is supposed to be talking to Lukashenko before that meeting. But I don't know if that's going to happen. But anyhow, in any case, he apparently will be coming here. He was invited by Lukashenko. I said it yesterday. And yeah, and they wanted me to be there. Yes. No, I didn't say that. Not yet, anyway. I don't know. Maybe I can get Lukashenko. If Zelensky can call all those people, maybe Lukashenko can call me. Maybe not. Anyway, so I think Trump wants those 1,300 political prisoners to be released. And just, I don't know, maybe a month ago or whatever, he released the Tikhanovskaya, I guess. I assume that is his name, because I think he was the husband of Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, who was the self-proclaimed leader of Belarus. They call her, I don't know, Juanita Guaido, or Tikhanovskaya, Juanita Guaido, because, like, remember that Guaido in Venezuela, the self-appointed, I think it was Trump that did that too. Trump appointed this guy and said, okay, well, just call yourself the leader of Venezuela. And they tried that one didn't work, and too many people were laughing about that and all that. And it was kind of like this here too. She declared herself, I guess, the leader of the opposition, and then she said she won the election. But I'll tell you what, even if me, and even if a lot of people don't like the government here, which, why, I have no idea. They're living in a very great country, and all of them, Americans and expats that come here, they all realize that too. They say, what the heck, this is great here in Belarus. If you're working on the economy, of course, the money's a little bit too small. But if you start raising, if you could, and if you do raise all these salaries, all the prices would be shooting up, and it's just an endless cycle. Then you want more money, you want more money, you want more money, and your rent goes and everything. And it's I don't know. I don't really know what a solution is. It's like that's how things work, But anyway, No, of people like Belarus, because, like I said, if you, I can go. You can have a woman going around here with with no shirt on, at 2 o'clock in the morning, and she won't even get raped, or, you know, in those woods over there, or whatever, or anywhere. It just doesn't happen. People really don't get robbed or murdered and raped. I don't even know if there's any murders in Minsk or Belarus proper ever throughout the year. I don't know. It's not like every minute or whatever, every 30 seconds in Chicago or whatever, Washington, D.C. And Donald Trump, I tell you what, I don't know. Can he clean it up? I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. They all want to make war on the police. But anyway, Belarus is much better than that. Maybe Donald Trump is going to say, because a lot of the people in the West, and Lukashenko's mentioned that, and I guess that's one thing that they talk about is, well, why is Belarus like this? Why is Belarus such a civilized country? And I keep saying, stability is like Lukashenko's middle word anyway, his middle name. He knows that stability is a vehicle to prosperity. So anyway, I don't want to keep waxing into more, whatever you call it, more philosophical stuff here for you guys. So I'll end right now, and let's see. I keep thinking I'm facing this direction. So I thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Just keep your eyes on, see what happens with this meeting. Keep your eyes open on this. This is going to be really exciting. I want to see if there's going to be a shouting match. Who knows, with Donald Trump and Zelensky. Maybe he'll kick all those people out. I'll tell you what I was going to say. Well, who would I pick if I was Zelensky? If he could take one person into that room with him. You know who I'd take? I'd take Maloney. She's a spitfire. Anyway, she'll yell back at Donald Trump. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.